Let's go ahead and zoom in on our leather straps so we can go ahead and detail it with the stitching. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, for now, lock the leather layer, create a new layer called stitching or thread, and I'm going to grab my pen tool, and on this new layer, making sure of course that I lock the layers I'm not dealing with, I'm going to simply draw out a path that follows the contour of one of these pieces of leather. And the reason I'm doing this instead of just copying one of the older paths is simply because with hand stitching, I want to make sure that it's not perfect. And that's one of the big secrets of computer graphics. Things should not look perfect, things should be dirty, things should look used and worn, and it kind of pulls you back into a pseudo reality instead of saying, oh, that's computer generated. So here's the stroke, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I have it moved down, and I'm going to make sure my stroke is in front, and I'll choose a lighter color, and I'm going to deselect so I can see how it looks. Now what I want to do is open up my, let's see here, stroke panel, and if you don't see your options, make sure you go to your pop-up menu and choose show options, and as long as you have your stroke selected, click dashed line and deselect to see what it looks like. Now I can tell that 12 points is way too much. I'm thinking maybe 2 or 4, so let's go ahead and try 4, and I'll hit the return key on my keyboard, and let's see what it looks like. Let me go ahead and select it first of all. And that looks good, but not tight enough, so I'm going to go with 2. I think that looks pretty good. Now the good thing about this is I no longer need to keep this open. I'm going to actually get rid of all these panels I don't need, and I can draw new strokes based on those parameters. So I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to create another one of those paths, and I'm going to do that little shortcut to turn this tool off temporarily. If you remember, on your keyboard you click Command or Control, and you'll temporarily turn the tool off that you're using and return to the selection tool. So I can click away from that stroke, let go of that keyboard button, and then create another stroke. So I'm simply going to stitch this up a little bit. And once again, I don't want perfection, and I very rarely want things to look like, computer generated artwork, even though it's a little hard to avoid in Illustrator. If you go too far, just do the stroke again. And I'm going to continue to go and draw these strokes. And then once we're done with the strokes for the threading, we're going to return to the leather straps and then put a gradient in it so we have a little bit more of a 3D feel to it and has lighting and everything applied to it. So right now it looks very flat and pretty dull. So I'm going to go ahead and continue with this. And of course you could do this on your own. It's very easy, but it's not a big deal, so might as well go ahead and just finish this off. And if you mess up once again, just hit undo, Command or Control Z on your keyboard to go back. And that's one of the reasons I like to use different layers, so I can have full control over my artwork. And I'll put one right here in the middle like so. Now let's go ahead and lock our thread layer or stitching layer and open up our leather again and select it. Click on any strap at all or any piece of leather, and make sure you bring the swatch for the foreground fill into the front by hitting X on the keyboard. What we're going to do here is simply go to our gradients now. We're going to go to the gradient panel and move that over a little bit like so, and put it wherever you have room. And what I want to do is, what I normally do is apply just a standard gradient. So I click on the gradient down here, and I just put that regular old default gradient, and then I build it from scratch myself. So I'm going to grab a dark brown, drag it right to the end here, grab a lighter color and throw it right on the bottom of this bar, grab a dark color again, put it here, and a dark color and throw it right about here, and start to build this gradient. So I have this nice leather strap. One thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this really dark color and move it over like this, and put a slightly lighter brown at the very end, because light is always going to bounce with radiosity on the edge of something. You're never going to have something go completely to black or dark in reality. So you want to have that little bit of a shine at the edges here as well. Now whether it's too bright or not, That's for you to decide, and you can always take a color and drag it on top of a stop that's already there until you have something you're happy with. Now I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to move this over, and I'm going to click on another strap, grab my eyedropper tool right here, and click on the strap that we just created with this nice gradient. I'm going to once again hold down that keyboard, a shortcut I showed you before of Command and Control, to turn off the eyedropper tool temporarily. Click on a new strap, let go of the keyboard, click on the other gradient, hold that keyboard down, again the combination, click, and slowly but surely fill in each of these straps with this nice gradient. And now we have a pretty cool looking strap of leather. One more thing I want to do is I want to just mention that when we get back to more detailing, we're going to create a leather tool layer, and it's going to be behind this layer, so we can go ahead and put some dark colors right back here and have a couple of dangling straps and that kind of thing. But for now, this is going to do great for our piece here. And let's go ahead and just grab this swatch and drag it right into the swatches palette, just in case we need it for later on.